Mike, today we're talking about episode 30, Margins to Mainstream Through Storytelling with Dr. Carmen Logie. Now, Carmen was just at our Story Slam. She
Yeah.
was one of the discussants. I'm so excited to talk about this episode with you. It was actually released in January of 2025. What resonated with
Mhm.
you from the co-created conversation?
Yeah. Well, of course, just the serendipity of meeting her, at a conference at a film festival in Greece, and then also recognizing she does stuff with HIV. I was currently doing a workshop on HIV. She works in East Africa in the same countries as me, so both Canadians, it's amazing sometimes how you need to have these spaces where you can gather and connect with people to sort of make the connections that are important to you. And now Carmen and I, of course, I think we've put in 3 grants together. We'll see if we get them, but lots of work happening. So it's just fun to sort of hear her talk about sort of that serendipity of meeting, meeting us all. But I would say one of the cool things that really stood out to me is how Carmen talked about when she created her own digital story, her very first one. She doesn't really share it with people, but what it did is help her craft a narrative about why she got involved in HIV research, right? And that's something that's really cool about digital storytelling is that it allows people to sort of craft these stories that then they can use in all sorts of different ways, whether or not they show the digital story or not. Right,
Mhm.
like Carmen doesn't share a digital story, but creating that digital story was a pivotal moment in her sort of research career to help determine why she wanted to do this HIV research, right? And so I love that. Not every story is made to be shared widely and
Mhm.
publicly, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes the value of it is just in making it. And that made me think about this idea of the value of art, the intrinsic value of art, right? Just making art is good. You know, it's not, you don't have to make it for others. You don't have to make it for a purpose. Just making it sometimes is good because it has all these other aspects that it brings into our life, whether or not we recognize it at the time. So anyways, that's a bit of a debate, I guess you could say, in the artistic community sometimes is sort of the inherent value of art versus the external or extrinsic value of art. And so it's good to be reminded every once in a while. It's just good to do stuff like this,
Mhm.
whether or not it has a purpose in mind, right? So anyways, that was one thing. I also loved thinking a little bit more, and I think Carmen mentioned this a little bit. She doesn't facilitate the stories as much as she is like the executive producer of the
Mhm.
stories, and I love that role in the digital storytelling community. And there's and Rebecca Hayden saw, one of our other facilitators. She helps me with workshops and stuff like that, but she also sees herself, she said, as the executive producer, the person who writes the grants, gets the projects going, and then utilizes the stories in an
Mhm.
effective manner, even if she doesn't actually physically create all the stories herself. And man, what a valuable role to have in the digital storytelling common language collective community, right? Like to have those executive producers. Carmen, I would say, is another one of those people who has that ability to recognize how and where and why stories could be shared and how to get funding to create these stories. And those two women have been such a wonderful, I'd say, um, you know, enhancement to the common language collective. Just having those two around has just been awesome. So, anyways, there's lots of other things. You guys had great conversation about stigma and all that stuff. Won't touch on that, but just understanding the value of a good story well told for people's own personal growth and development, and also this idea of having executive producers involved in digital storytelling. There's a couple big takeaways from that one.
Well, and if you would like to hear more about the stigma side of things, which she did bring up at the Story Slam. So Carmen was one of the discussants at the first annual Common Language Story Slam. She does talk about stigma in that space. So that
Mhm.
would be available on the Common Language website to have a kind of listen to that as well, as we've done some more work with her. And it sounds like there'll be lots more in the future. I can't wait, Mike.
Yeah.
We're talking about episode 30, Margins to Mainstream Through Storytelling with Carmen Logie. Look below. You can find the link to listen to that episode as well as the links to some of the stories and the work that she has done.